Hello everyone, Precise7 here, welcome back to some more BT6. Now in this week of Bloonarius, I noticed that the map was on balance, which is a pretty interesting map, definitely a good map for Ultra Juggernaut and of course Apex Plasma Master. But I decided to do something different. One tower that is really great on this map is, well, Tack Zone. Tack Zone, of course, if you place on the center, absolutely shreds everything, including all tiers of Bloonarius, even on like normal. Even for elite, Tack Zone still does fairly well against Bloonarius. And of course I'm bringing Geraldo instead of Benjamin, as well, Benjamin does make more money than Geraldo, I do believe, but Geraldo does provide some better buffs. And so if you do place on Geraldo on like round 4, round 5, you can afford the Quincy NFT immediately and save up like 13k for, tier 1 of Bloonarius, which is a pretty sizable amount, meaning you want to sell your farm. So Geraldo is not actually a bad choice for doing the first few tiers of Bloonarius, although after that, Geraldo is definitely a lot worse than Benjamin, so I guess it's kind of a trade-off. Do you like want some better buffs, or do you want to make more money over the course of the 120 rounds or so? Alrighty, so skipping over to tier 1 of Bloonarius, I did have to get a outbuff spike balls in the back just to make sure that I actually didn't die to the ceramic cluster. That's the only bad thing about balance, is that Tack Zone does eventually run out of pierce. Even with Geraldo's buffs, he still doesn't have the pierce necessary in order to actually guess not really lose his ceramic cluster. Might be pierce, might be damage, I'm not really 100% sure. But even then, using Geraldo's +1 pierce thing, it still does you can leak through. As you can see here, like Bloonarius is just absolutely just melting, just like kind of just with overdrive in total. And Bloonarius will like loop around this little loop a few times, so of course, Tack Zone has like a ton of time to just actually just absolutely melt and shred. And believe it or not, this wasn't even like the best it could even do. We haven't even gotten to the surface of what Tack Zone and overdrive can really do here. And of course, for like tier 2 is like evident here, is the only thing you really had to do is just actually just upgrade overdrive to Tack Zone. And that was really all I did. Just kept spirals, kept embrittlement. As you can see, is still doing like even better than it was in tier 1. The only problem is that spike balls can't even actually keep up with how fast Tack Zone's actually beating Bloonarius. They're actually leaking some lives to the yellows that Bloonarius is spawning, so I had to get a second spike factory in the back just to make sure that I wasn't actually dying here. I accidentally upgrade to spike mines, but it's whatever. That little money that I did waste, they won't really affect me too much. Now, of course, Geraldo was level 15 by the time tier 3 of Bloonarius spawned, so that was even better. I used Jar Pickles here because later in the game, Tack Zone's gonna have some insane attack speed, with overclock, ultra boost, homeland, and all that. And even like now, I feel like Jar Pickles still will output on average maybe a bit more DPS, even though it does increase. It does decrease the attack speed. But Tack Zone's attacking pretty fast to my liking, so again, it's kind of whatever. I do feel like this could have probably have been meta for for Bloonarius. And my issue with doing this is kind of the fact that you have to wait for Bloonarius to go into the range of Tack Zone into the center, which does take a while. So I don't really feel like this was really too meta for the elite and ranked of Bloonarius, especially not for elite, because Tack Zone does take a bit of a while to actually kill elite Bloonarius. Tier 4 is literally the same thing as, all the rest of previous tiers, except this time, we have support like Ultra Boost, Homeland, and even then we got Energizer Monkey Novice combo, which makes it an incredibly amount of money. I'm using Downdraft in the back, which actually stalls around, which is unintentional, but I guess it's kind of whatever. And of course, we have just Downdraft in the back, just to help just in case Tack Zone does need a bit help with the zebras or the I guess the insides of the ZOMGs that Bloonarius spawns. But even then, it's still kind of just doesn't even matter, as Tack Zone is still absolutely shredding literally everything. And again, it's the same story for even tier 5, except Tack Zone this time is even more insane. Just look at that range and look at how the attacks. They're attacking so fast, it doesn't even look like the attacks are even moving like when Homeland is active. That's just kind of how insane, Tack Zone is. And it's like still shredding the 3 million HP. So when I saw this, I was like, I have to try this out in Elite and just see how far Tack Zone can go into Elite Bloonarius. When I first saw this, I was thinking, alright, maybe Tack Zone will get to tier 3, but then die to tier 4. There's no way Tack Zone was gonna like deal 48 million HP damage like by itself, even with max buffs, max support, as much as you can do. There's absolutely no way Tack Zone was going to be able to. But I do believe it could have done from tiers 1 to 3. Alright, so for this session I didn't actually start recording until tier 3. Why is that? Well, because Tack Zone was still shredding literally everything, even though, you know, this is still less HP than, you know, tier 5 normal. So of course Tack Zone can easily beat this, although this time we just don't have as much support, which is not really an issue. Tack Zone is still doing absolutely insane amounts of damage, even, you know, without the true Sun God buffs that, you know, we had before. I did have to sell most of my farms in order to actually be able to afford most of this defense, but, you know, it's really fine. I wasn't really planning on, there's no way Tack Zone was going to be able to beat tier 5 anyways, and no amount of money in the world was going to change that. I decided to get an Apex Plasma Master, you know, just like kind of other towers in the range, just to actually be able to beat tier 5, although we did have to sell Tack Zone for it. But even still, Tack Zone is still doing some incredible amounts of damage in DPS in general. Permaspike is in the back just in case, just to like have insurance against, you know, the DTs and the bad insides, which ended up not being too big of an issue. Tack Zone again was still absolutely melting those like butter as well. You know what they say, man, you know, Tack Zone is OP. Alright, so tier 4 of Elite was a bit of a worry, simply just because, again, we still don't have like max support that we can get from how we did in normal. But even then, Tack Zone still doesn't really care. Even with just a 400 temple, Tack Zone is still doing some incredible damage. We don't even have true Sun God yet. Although I guess with a true Sun God wouldn't really make too much of a difference, as again, you know, there's no way Tack Zone is actually going to be able to do 48 million damage. But even then, doing 8 million damage, Tack Zone still doesn't really care about that too much. Tack Zone is still doing really well against just kind of Bloonarius. And I guess it really does go to show that, you know, certain towers are better on certain maps. I really do wonder, you know, maybe like if Ultra Juggernaut could have done, you know, maybe, well, not as well as Tack Zone was going to do. Maybe Ultra Juggernaut could have been used for like something. I do know that in 1 week, back in like the very, very early days of Bloonarius, when it was just Dart and Boomerang Paragon, Ultra Juggernaut was used for tier 1 Bloonarius on Encrypted. When that was done, that was pretty fun, you know, see different towers being used. And so it does really go to show that, you know, maps do make a huge difference when it comes to what towers are actually going to be used for Bloonarius. And it's kind of cool to see that, you know, underrated towers, well, not really underrated, I guess, you know, bad towers can still be useful in some niche circumstances, although the only downside about that is that, of course, it's only going to be used in those niche circumstances. If you could see there, the fortified DT rush there almost killed me. I went down to 23 lives. I really thought I was actually going to die there. Kind of lucky that I didn't. I thought Temple was actually able to clean up everything. Alrighty, so for tier 5, I really doubted that, you know, Tack Zone was actually going to be able to beat Bloonarius here. But I still just was kind of curious to see, you know, how much damage could Tack Zone like really do to this. Could Tack Zone put like a really bit of a dent into this? And the kind of cool thing about this is that Tack Zone isn't getting pierce capped here. Is that something that I just kind of noticed. So, you know, Tack Zone isn't really kind of doing as much DPS as it normally, or I guess as like it fully could if, you know, it was hitting the pierce cap. So I guess Bloonarius only takes away a couple pierce, not really too much, but I guess all the pierce buffs from all the towers I have in range do make a huge difference. And again, Tack Zone is still shredding, although it's not really kind of as fast. As you can see, we've only made it down to like 1 skull, and, you know, for all the other tiers, we've made it down to like, you know, the third or third or fourth skull by now. So it's just trying to make sure that, you know, Tack Zone wasn't actually going to die from like the insides to the DDTs and ZOMGs and whatnot. So it's just kind of banking on, you know, Tack Zone being able to pop every single bad, and seeing how, you know, Tack Zone is absolutely just shredding those like ZOMGs, and they're like nowhere close to where Tack Zone is, and it's like around 125. NK did like recently buff free play yet again recently, and even still Tack Zone is still doing fairly well even against the boosted free play ramping that was kind of made recently. I wonder if Tack Zone is still useful in like late game runs, seeing just how insane, you know, Tack Zone is kind of just doing right now. I don't really think any other tower could really come kind of close to this when kind of super buffed, except for maybe Vengeful. Fortunately, Tack Zone was going to die to these bads here, but again, I just kind of let them leak and didn't really do anything, as again, Tack Zone wasn't going to be able to beat those.